So you're well known as a judge and a competitive dancer and social dancer, been around for a while. Give us a little bit of your background in judging and in West Coast Swing.
A while. That's a suitably vague comment there, but yeah, I've been in the West Coast swing scene for well over 30 years. I started partner dancing in the late 80s with country western, and then shifted over to swing, and really focused on West Coast swing primarily, starting about early to mid 90s, and then kind of moved away from country western and really focused 100% on swing, and ended up in 1997. I got lucky enough to win the U.S. Open, so that kind of changed my trajectory as far as a dancer, because that was before the era of Jordan and Tatiana and Benji winning 14 years in a row. It was, you never knew who was going to be doing it. I kind of stumbled on being a chief judge. I'm not going to get into too much of the detail of it, but it was kind of a situation where what I was involved in as a judge wasn't really being done as good as it could have been, and I brought it up to the attention of the chief judge, and I was basically kind of called out on it. And then, as it turned out, somebody else backed me up, and I kind of thought that my life was over as a judge. And as it turned out, the next year that event hired me as their chief judge. And then the crazy thing was that a good friend of mine at the time was running Phoenix 4th of July, which was a huge event at that time. It was literally the first event that had over 100 couples in a novice Jack and Jill. And my second event was running that event. Was the largest, what they used to call the U.S. Open of Jack and Jill.
Yep.
And we ran it literally on time for the first time in 8 years. And so things went really well, and just kind of accidentally found out that it was something that I was good at. I often say that chief judge, because there's a saying about, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay. And I say that a good chief judge sees the spark before the smoke, sees what will produce the spark that will produce the spark. No, sees what will produce the spark that will produce the smoke that will produce the fire way before it even happens. You have to kind of see that where things could fall in and become a problem. Yeah. And so you see possible issues before they actually become issues, because if you wait till they become issues, then it ends up being a big train wreck. Yeah. So I've been doing the chief judging thing for well over probably 25 years now. Probably one of the most common questions people ask me is, are you having fun? And the answer is no. It's not a fun job. I do enjoy it. Yeah. But it's not a fun job. It's too intense. But I mean, ideally, you want to be doing something that is a challenge, but at the same time you enjoy. But the idea of finding a job that you love and is fun. I could love something that's not fun. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great position. I love what I'm doing. I enjoy it. Since COVID, I've kind of not doing as much because some of the events that I was doing on a regular basis didn't come back after COVID. So yeah. That's part of we're expecting that. So yeah, yep. So that's pretty much it. I still do compete occasionally when I'm not chief judge. I have pro-am students that I work with on a strictly swing, strictly pro-am kind of thing, and I also teach regularly here in Orlando, which is where I live now, and I kind of have a goal of getting back on the floor of the U.S. Open again at some point in the near future, and we'll see what happens.
The term Jack and Jill, over in the UK, we have it as a nursery rhyme. Jack and Jill went up the hill. I'm not sure whether you have that over in the States. Yeah. But where did it come from? Where did it originate from?
Well, I mean, the idea of a Jack and Jill is something that was brought to our scene by Jack Carey. So Jack Carey is credited with inventing the Jack and Jill as a way. I don't know all of the nuances as to why, but basically because you would have, from what I understand, it was always the same people kept winning all the contests. So it was like, well, what's the point of even competing? And then they're like, well, what if we came up with something that was more social and more where you could basically be drawing somebody else's partner, and then you had to do something with it and see where you could take it. And obviously it kind of went crazy and really blew up. But and his partner was Annie. So we don't know why it didn't call it Jack and Annie, but Jack and Jill kind of caught on, and that's where it came from. And yeah, it's just the whole randomness of it. I mean, back then, you didn't even have, you had one division when it started, then you had two, which was novice and then open. And then it kind of kept going and going and going and going. And yeah, so that's basically kind of where it all kind of brought into play.
So we have different divisions now. When dancers come in, they get the option of dancing in newcomer if they haven't got any points, or they can go straight into the novice. Not every competition offers newcomer. I think it's becoming more and more of a thing. Would you recommend people step into newcomer or step straight into novice?
To me, it has a lot to do with experience as a dancer, not just experience in competition itself. I think if you're a new dancer in general to partner dancing, the newcomer is definitely the place to start.
Yeah.
We have people that come in and they've got 10 years of ballroom and Latin or country western couples, and there is no reason they should start a newcomer.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of those dances are syllabus driven, so maybe they struggle with the social aspect of West Coast swing. So in certain circumstances, yes, it would be the right thing to do to go ahead and dance a newcomer. And I've always had not a strong belief, but a kind of an inkling in the way of a newcomer should be for people who are new to competition. So even to me, to a certain degree, I'm not a real fan. It's allowed, so I don't make an issue of it, but I'm not a big fan of people that have, like, let's take an example, the traditional role versus non-traditional. The traditional role being, let's say a female gets into a following and moves her way up and goes up from into novice and is winning in novice and wants to learn to lead. More power to her. I love it. And then goes into newcomer, but they've been competing for 2 years. They've got timing, they've got technique, they know the music, they feel the music. Now they're still learning how to lead, but they already have, 10 steps up on that new dancer in newcomer. So to me, and usually those people get out of newcomer really fast.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but that's kind of one of those things that I would rather not see, but you don't really have another option.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to make an issue out of that because it's not that big of a hang up for me.
So, for dancers, they can enter both roles in competitions as long as it's in different yeah. And they're now tracked with the World Swing Dance Council as well, whether you've got points on leading and following. So and it has to be down a division from your primary role.
Right. And I love how they're using that term primary role versus traditional role. Because to me it's not traditional, it's what is your primary.
Yeah.
Because I know people that females that have never been a follower, males that have never been a leader, and it's not based upon gender, it's based upon what your primary role is.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really great thing because you do have some absolutely incredible followers and leaders on both sides that cross over the traditional. So I'm glad that they call it primary versus secondary.
Oh yeah, and there's some dancers out there that are amazing at both roles.
Oh yeah,
I think we've got a few all stars. I think that are coming up to champions, and they could be champion in either role.
Absolutely. I mean,
there's a few.
Part of the reason why I never got into following was because of my height. I can follow, but then you add into that the combination of my height and my age, and I have shoulders that I have a bit of an issue with. And as a leader, I can protect my shoulders. As a follower, I'm in to a certain degree under the control of my leader, so I can't protect myself as well. So I'm not willing to take the chance. I'd like to stay healthy and on the dance floor. So
coming back to that, they also have a lot of the competitions also have age divisions within Jack and Jill. So there's sophisticated, which is often 35 plus, I believe, and masters, which is 50 or 55, I think. 50. Over in the UK, we have masters and that's it. But I believe they're doing 2 divisions over in the US, or maybe it's being discussed.
Yeah. I mean, some events do 2. Some events do 3. So what they'll do is they'll do sophisticated, and then they'll do novice masters, and then open masters.
Yeah.
And that's been basically kind of facilitated by the fact that we have a lot of, I mean, honestly, folks like myself. I mean, I compete in masters as long as it's an open division. I won't compete in a division where or I try to stay away from competing in divisions where everyone is lumped into one.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that I want to encourage people to be competing and get out there and dance. I don't want them to be frustrated by the fact that they have to dance against me, or they're terrified of me, which happens with sometimes the followers. But I love the idea because it gives you kind of a place to continue. You don't have to, well, didn't make it to All-Stars or Champions, in my normal level, and now I'm 50 years old, and I don't have to go out there and compete against the 20-year-olds. The very first time I ever danced in the Masters division, I also competed in All-Stars at the same event. And my first three partners combined age barely was more than me. I'm literally dancing with 16-year-old, 15-year-old, and a 21-year-old. And I was just like, they don't want to draw. They don't want to dance with their dad or their grandpa either. So,
I'm in my mid-40s, and often I'm up there sitting on the chairs and looking around in the comps, and it feels like I'm doing some kind of extreme babysitting. Where competitors are getting younger and younger. We're not getting older, of course.
It is daily. It's a daily thing where you're out there on the competition side of things, and after you've been doing it for a while, and I've not stopped. We jokingly say that sometimes people got domesticated when they stopped dancing for a while because they got married, or they had kids and they took a break for a few years, and that's not something that I ever did. So that was something that's been interesting and fun. But I miss competing. I got into so much judging side of stuff, and in the champions division, I'm dancing literally against 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and I was close to 50. I literally, the first event that happened after I turned 50, I was there doing Masters, and it was Jack and Jill Arema, and I absolutely loved it. It was an absolute blast. And ironically, I think I don't want to go too far along this, but the basic kind of thing about it that was interesting was, when I was competing back in the 90s, I was one of those, top 5 guys that everybody wanted to draw. That was before, everybody that you can think of nowadays was all underage. Jordan and Tatiana, Kyle and Sarah, they were all literally kids. So we're out there and it's dancing. It's Martin Parker, Phil Adams, Mark Scheifele, Wayne Bott, Manny Villarreal, Robert Cordova, all those people that were in that age bracket. So to dance in that division and to be one of the people that everybody wanted to dance with, and then as you get older, that starts to decline. And then all of a sudden you get out there and now you're, nobody in the champions division really wants to draw you, unless it's in a prelims, because they know you're going to take care of them. But you're not going to make finals in most cases because you can't do all the crazy stuff that everybody's doing. And then you're out there dancing, and you all of a sudden you get into sophisticated. And now you're the folks, again, everybody wants to draw you. And then again, that starts to trail off again as you get closer. Then you get into Masters, and all of a sudden, so it's this thing that kind of makes it interesting, because it's nice. Everyone wants to be wanted, okay? And the fact that when you're out there dancing, and I'm in a Masters division, and I am one of the people that people do want to dance with, that feels good, and it makes me feel like I want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And as long as I can do it and I don't get frustrated by not winning, because I love it when, especially somebody who has previously been a student of mine or currently beats me. I absolutely love it. Okay. Because in the finals, it's all about about you and your partner. It's no longer about you as an individual. I don't win every contest I get into. Far from it. Have I done well? Yeah. But there are times I don't place sometimes. I don't win sometimes. I have yet to not make finals, but I hope as an individual dancer, which this will be a nice segue, that in the prelims that I dance strong enough that I can make the finals in the Masters division.
Yeah.
So I love it. I think it's great.
So how much importance do you think is put on in the individual and the partnership? And does it become different in the prelims and the finals? Is there more focus on the individual in the prelims?
It definitely is more focused on the individual in the prelims. And in reality, most of the time when you're judging Jack and Jill's, so now we're going to kind of switch hats to the judging perspective as far as from being a competitor. So as a judge, I am generally tasked with judging either the leaders or the followers. So just in that alone, I'm judging an individual. Now, the hard part that happens is sometimes people will be impacted by their partner in a negative way, and an experienced judge will be able to see that and basically kind of go, oh yeah, well, this partner is pulling the follower all over the place, is rushing the lead. She's off time. I'm not even gonna look at the rest of this dance because it's not working, and I happen to be judging followers. I'm gonna come back to that person because I don't want to take the time to figure out why it's happening, but I think it's the leader. And then you come back to the next heat, you find you're judging followers still, and you realize, oh yeah, it was definitely the leader, and the follower is doing really, really well. So you are judging them individually, but with a partnering, I guess, kind of not bias, but a partnering focus. You still want somebody who's dancing with their partner. You don't want somebody who's out there just for flash and trash, regardless of their partner, and totally disconnected. So I want them to dance with their partner.
Yeah. Would you say at the lower divisions, at newcomer and novice, that timing is probably one of the more important things that judges look for?
Yes. I jokingly say a lot of times in the newcomer division, it's going to be the 5 guys that actually know what the one is that are going to make the finals, and can find it consistently. Now that's a little bit
same as advanced and all-star sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. But the reality of it is that if you take it a lot further than that, yes, we are looking for good, solid technique. We do want to see good, solid fundamentals and basics, especially in the newcomer division. Now, the thing that's a misunderstanding as far as competition side of things goes is that when we're using that term and say, you know, hey, we want to see good, solid basics, it's not that we only want to see good, solid basics, but we want to see that that is something that you have in your repertoire before you start to add other layers on top of it. If you go out there, I often use the reference, I talk about the idea about the box. Everybody always wants to dance outside of the box, but a lot of them haven't learned where the box is yet. So you have to learn where the box is first. Show me that you know where the box is, and you can come back to it every once in a while. Even while you're stepping outside of it, you're moving around. So I want to know that you have that, you have the general concept of the dance there, and that you're getting a decent body lead connected movement-wise. We're not sitting there worried about a newcomers. Are you stepping on the beat? Are you trailing the beat? But if you're moving to the beat, if you're using a toe lead or a heel lead, I'm not even worried about all that kind of stuff in newcomer. It's just the overall big picture. But which is general for me in all the competitions. But in the newcomer division, we are really just looking for good partnering. Look at your partner, connect to your partner, have fun with it. You can actually dance less than perfect, but have a great time and do really well.
Yeah. So with judges, I think often there's a logical brain which will look for the partnership and the timing and things like that. But also us humans have a feeling part of the brain which looks for the happiness, and it detects how people are feeling. It's our kind of emotional part of the brain as opposed to the logical part. One thing I've noticed with a lot of newcomers and novices, a lot of them get very nervous. Do you think judges pick up on nerves and when there's that face of fear? Do you think they?
Well, honestly, I don't know. I've been accused of not having that part of my brain. So, fear, yeah, we expect there to be fear. There is, and fear, I don't know that fear is the right term, but uncertainty. And, because if fear should initiate fight or flight, and we don't want either one of those. Okay. Body flight, yes, but not, So when we're looking at that on the floor, we're looking for, we want you to basically first and foremost connect to your partner. Don't just kind of like take their hand and walk around like you don't even know the person and you're not trying. You want to establish some kind of a connection with your partner. And I still do the same thing to this day. I give my partner, or I offer a hug, because we have to be a little bit more careful about that nowadays. But we offer a hug, and if my partner comes into a hug, then I'm going to give them a great big hug. And the first thing I'm going to say when I introduce myself, and then weirdly enough, half the time nowadays people will go, "Yeah, I know," and it's like, "Oh, okay, great." But and then I turn and I go, oh, "I'm ready to have fun," and usually, "Yeah, absolutely." So we're there to have fun first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I'm going to visually connect with my partner because I want them to know that I am there with them. They're not by themselves anymore. They are with their partner. So the more you dance together and look at each other and interact, the more you kind of feel comfortable together. And it's going to get rid of a lot of those nerves.
One of the things psychologically is looking and noticing the color of their eyes. Just holding gaze long enough to notice the color of their eyes. I think especially at lower divisions where eye contact is a bit sometimes missing from the dance. Just checking in and just seeing eye color.
That's an interesting one. I like that. I've never even thought of it really that way. I always, well, I mean, I'm 6 feet 5 inches, so I'm a tall guy. So I generally, I tell the follower I want you to look at my top button, if nothing else, because I can't go anywhere without my sternum. My body
Yeah.
goes as my sternum goes, so does my body. So if you're watching that, then you're not never going to you're not going to miss as much things as you possibly could. But
Mm.
and as a follower, obviously as a leader, I'm not going to look at my partner in that position. I'm probably going to look over their head.
Yeah.
But you're always going to be breaking eye contact as a leader, regardless. So,
Yeah.
but connecting to each other and basically making sure that you're both realizing we are in this together.
Mm.
And the more connected we are visually and physically in the dance, the better the dance is going to be regardless.
So with Jack and Jill's as well, there's normally 3 tracks, sometimes 4. I've seen an instance where there was 5. Um, but normally it's 3. Sometimes say they go to 4 if there's followers over or leaders over in a heat. Normally there's a contemporary track, a blues track, and a kind of slower or pop track. They have the 3 tracks in different orders. What's the reasoning behind the 3 tracks, 3 different styles?
The idea is that we want to see you dancing to different styles of music. We want overall the best dancer, not the best dancer to pop music or the best dancer to blues music or the best dancer to contemporary or lyrical or whatever. We want to know that somebody's not going to get carried in just because they're really good at dancing the blues. They should be able to dance. Now, everyone is going to have their strongest style of music that they connect to, but at the same time, you should be solid in the other dances and the other songs hypes as well. I could dance to upbeat blues without a problem at all. Of course, I'm the old school swing dancer, so I know all about the weighted triples and the fast movements and stuff like that. The
Yeah.
stuff that we danced to in Jack and Jill's was at 140 beats a minute wasn't unusual. If we played that now, people would dance at halftime.
Mm.
So, and people do it. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of that kind of the different styles we're looking for a feel. I mean, it got to a point where, again, like I mentioned, I've been doing it for quite a while, but if I go back to, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, if we wanted to separate the men from the boys or to basically make a cut easy, we played a really slow song. But now everybody plays slow songs and social dancing and everything. So now we play a fast song. So it kind of goes back and forth as far as how that all works.
I remember when I first started, must have been about 12, 15 years ago now. Everything was about 120, 110 on average. And now if you play something 110 socially, people are, oh, I can't do the fast stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I did a routine at the US Open to a song that was 100, I think it was 138 beats a minute.
Mm. Well, I think Candyman's 180, and I always say to people, look at the video for Candyman by Christina Aguilera. It's got Benji in it, dancing a bit West Coast. So you can't get much faster than that. When competing, do you think it's important that competitors practice and prepare themselves for comps? Should competitors practice and?
Yes, I think that, and the reality of it is that social dancing should prepare you for competition.
Mm.
When people tell me that they get worried about it or they get stressed out when they're doing a Jack and Jill or they're not sure what to do, usually it goes to me to a late night feeling of this. I go, tell me last night, what was the best dance you had at 3 o'clock in the morning? How did that feel? What kind of a vibe did that bring for you? Whether it was upbeat or slow or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's the kind of energy that you want to bring to the dance floor for your competition.
Yeah.
I've seen a big, and I wrote an article on it a while back, but it was about the competition side of things. And it's like, there are actually people now that train for competition, not for social dancing. Social dancing would train you how to do competition.
Yeah.
Because the more you dance with everybody, the better you felt with everybody and the better you could dance with everybody. And now, I mean, one of the lines that I remember hearing when I was writing the story was, or the article was a follower who goes out on the dance floor and asks her partner to dance smaller because it was really crowded. And he says, I don't know how to dance smaller. This is how I learned to dance for competition.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you want to dance to the space that you have. I often say the most dangerous time on a social dance floor is right after the champions Jack and Jill. because everyone is trying to emulate what they were doing when they were on the floor all by themselves.
Yep.
And now everybody's dancing big but there's no space. So that's the time that I usually will leave the ballroom, and not because
room party.
room party. Yep. I've actually done that, literally exactly that, and I got stepped on so many times in a few songs after the Jack and Jill. I'm like, yeah, room party, let's go. Back to my room. Then I'll come back an hour later, and it's great dancing for the rest of the
night. We know that the parties normally happen in your room.
Only in
See
the
your
US.
alcohol collection in there. How about what competitors wear as well? Do you think that's important when they're out on the floor competing?
I do. So I think of it this way. It's about the presentation more than anything else. It's not a matter of what style it is, because basically you can have a nice style or look and still be casual. I mean, look at Simon Cowell. He wears white T-shirts all the time, but they're what, $400 or $500 white T-shirts. Okay, so to say you can't wear a white T-shirt would be a bad thing. You're not going to tell him that, you know. So I mean, you don't have to be all dressed up, but to me, it's a matter of to a little bit of it is kind of respect. It's like, because the judges should be dressed nicer than the average scenario, depending on the type of event. Sometimes literally on a Friday or Saturday evening, we'll be out there in a tuxedo. But suits are not unusual, and more so in an evening than during the daytime. But you know, if you went to the U.S. Open and you literally did sorry, not the U.S. Open, the Open, and you looked at the wardrobes of all the judges, they were high end. Everyone looked amazing. And that's a requirement. So every event has their own little nuance when it comes to that, and that's absolutely fine. There are some events I worked where they told me to leave the ties at home. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And then other events, they said, leave the sports coats and the ties at home. I don't want, none of that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then others like, hey, Friday night is formal, semi-formal, tuxedos and ball gowns for judging on Saturday night. Like, okay, no problem. So every event has their own thing. But to me, it's always been, it's not necessarily just about jeans, because to me, it's a comfort level. You do want to be comfortable, but you want to make it look like you didn't just roll out of bed and slide onto the dance floor. So it's just a matter of, and each event still has the same thing with what they have an expectation of as far as how you're going to be dressing in the competitions. So I've heard people that are complaining about an event that says no jeans. Well, the no jeans is something that event wants to have. Yeah. And guess what? That's their prerogative. So if you come out there with jeans, guess what? I have literally, going back to, I was judging an event, I'm chief judging an event. The event director told the competitors no jeans, told the judges no jeans. And I had to send Tatiana back to her room to change a $400 pair of jeans. Yeah. Because they were still jeans. It didn't matter that they were a $400 pair of jeans. Those are jeans, you need to go change. And she was not happy. But I've known her since she was like 12, so she did kind of listen at the time. But still, that was what the event director put in place, and my job is to enforce that.
I think for competitors as well, it's important that they're comfortable, but also with a little bit of respect to the competition, like not coming down with like last night's worn clothes on that you've been out social dancing till 4 o'clock, which happens sometimes.
I've had that conversation recently when I wore jeans in a competition, and a judge asked me about it. I said, you know what? I said, I've realized recently that when I wear jeans, I relax more and I play more, and I'm not as kind of like stuffy with what I'm doing. Yeah. And when you got me out there and I'm doing a Pro-Am Jack and Jill, and I'm dancing possibly 12, 15, 20 songs in a row, I want to be comfortable. And I dance a little bit differently when I'm wearing a more casual shoe and a pair of jeans than I do when I'm wearing, standard dance shoes with a heel and slacks and, maybe a tie and a vest. I'm going to dance a lot differently.
So you're back over in the UK in January?
Yes, I am. I will be there the last couple of weekends. I'm going to be kind of extending my trip a little bit. I fly over there, I believe it's on the 21st, and I leave on the 31st and go straight to Charlotte for Charlotte Westie Fest.
It's on my list. We've got a big long list of events to do this coming year. I think there's about 30 on them. So
There's only so many weekends.
We've really got to sit down and start crossing them off. But our first one of the year is Swing Resolution up in January, which you're going to be head judge for.
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
It's always a good event up there.
It is. I was lucky enough to literally, when I first started coming to that event, my sister had done our heritage and had checked significantly as far as our entire family tree. And at that point, that was when I found out how much Scottish heritage I actually have. And since then, I've slowly but surely kind of built up my Scottish garb. And literally 2 weeks after the event last year, I received the shipment of my tartan. So I actually have my family tartan, and one of my relatives is actually buried in St. Giles Cathedral, right in downtown Edinburgh. So
your profile pictures and things for a while were taken up in Scotland.
Oh yeah,
in the kilt.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I mean, I love the Scottish culture. I love that the country is beautiful. The people are awesome. They're so friendly and such amazing people. And those down in London, yeah, they're okay. But yeah, anyway, so Scotland is it's a great area. I love the UK in general. I've been going there for many years. Probably I think one of the first places I ever went outside of the country was to London and the Netherlands. That was back in, like, I think it was 98 was the first time I actually left. And I came into London and stayed with my good friends, David and Lily Barker. They're still good friends of mine. I see them whenever I can as I come into London. And basically ever since then, every time I come into London, we meet for dinner and hang out a little bit and get to catch up. And then, so I stayed there, and then I did a little bit of teaching. Joe Thompson was in town at that point in time doing some stuff, and we connected and had a great time teaching a few classes together. And then it's been off and on since. But yeah, things have. I'm enjoying it. I still like to come over to Europe every now and then. I'm getting closer to the idea of possibly retiring, and when I do, I might become a full-time dance instructor again and start traveling without a worry about making income or paying rent, because I won't have a place to worry about. So we'll see.
Yeah, Edinburgh's a lovely city as well. Gorgeous city. Not quite as warm as Florida, but
definitely not. And I actually, since the last year I was there, I actually got kind of connected into a TV show called The Last Kingdom, which is set in Scotland, and they literally have stuff that they do in Stirling and Edinburgh and down in the Bevonborough, which is the castle, his home castle. And I'm going to go there while I'm there this time. I found out that it actually exists. It's a real castle. And I was like, okay, I can check that out. It's only like an hour or so outside of Edinburgh. Yeah. So, anything else? Any other questions? Or
no? I'll let you go. I know you're busy moving. And are you packing or unpacking?
I am still packing.
Packing.
I get to pick up my keys at my new place here in about 3 hours, and then some friends of mine, some friends/students of mine, will be coming over to help start to load everything up. Luckily, it's only an hour, not an hour, geez. It's only a mile away from where I live now. And I'm moving into a place that's a single, the lowest floor on an apartment, so I'm actually ground level, moving from second level down to ground level, which is great because I'm doing a lot of private lessons at my house as far as teaching. It has wood floors in the house, so the living room is basically going to be a dance room. So a dance room with a big 100-inch projector screen to watch dance videos and whatever else we want to watch.
Open party at yours next year then?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So we shall see you in January over at Swing Res. Absolutely. Have a good Christmas and New Year. We don't speak before.
As well. We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye.